listening to the Project Ignite podcast,
where real digital entrepreneurs reveal their very best tips, tools, and strategies to help you ignite and grow your online business.
ProjectIgnite.com. Your digital business starts here.
Now, here's your host, Derek Gale.
Welcome to another edition of the Project Ignite podcast, where we skip the BS, skip the hype, and bring you real entrepreneurs doing really cool stuff that you can learn from to help you grow your online business. And today we're going to be talking about something I'm pretty passionate about, and that is freelancing. I mean, right now, between my companies, I think I employ probably full-time, we're well north of 50 people right now. And that being said, a lot of those people started off as contractors, but at any given time, I'm working with probably at least a dozen freelancers, designers, writers, et cetera, et cetera. And I have for many, many years. And freelancing is such an integral part of digital businesses because it gives us a strategic advantage that we never had prior to this massive marketplace of talent that we can now tap into. Because, you know, as small businesses, hiring full-time designers and writers and stuff like that, and marketers and social media people doesn't make sense when you're first getting started. But now, because of the freelancing marketplace that exists out there, we can sort of buy as needed top talent from all over the world. And, it's continuing to grow at an incredible rate. The pandemic has seen a massive shift in people becoming freelancers and also hiring freelancers. And so we're going to dive deep into this topic today. And our guest today is a 20-year technologist and a Fortune 500 fintech VP. A few years back, he authored the book called What's Your Coffee Strategy, which outlined a blueprint for building relationships and creating value to accelerate careers in business. And he recently founded Freelancing.com, a quickly growing freelancing platform. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Rasool Muttalib to the show. Well, great. That's tipping over my tongue. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah,
now,
it's awesome to be here. Very excited.
You know what? How do you pronounce your last name?
Yeah, it's Muttalib.
Muttalib. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That was a tongue twister. I should have asked you.
It is a tongue twister. I was waiting with bated breath to see if you.
Yeah. Well, I feel I have one of those last names that has been butchered every way possible.
Yeah.
I grew up with that. So I always try and ask people, how do you pronounce that before we get started, but I totally forgot. So that's all right, because we're here.
We're here.
Let's do this. So before we, get into the freelancing, I always like my guests to just share their journey. And, you were obviously in the fintech space, part of companies, but now you've gone out on your own and you've launched this platform. What inspired that?
Yeah, well, great question. So as you mentioned, I've been in technology for 20 years, and I started out at the very bottom and actually started out freelancing. A million years ago, companies did not have websites, believe it or not. And you probably remember that time where there was this it was like a mass transition where businesses wanted to go online. And it just so happened that I was fresh out of college. I'd learned how to build websites, and I started to build websites for companies. I mean, there was no platform. It was a bit more word of mouth back then, passing out business cards and etc. But that was my first blush at being a freelancer and kind of learning the ropes. And then, jumped into the career. I've been in so many different industries, from cloud to manufacturing, to identity management, and ultimately landed in fintech. Started out at the very, very bottom and, worked my way up to be an executive, one of the largest fintech companies in the world. So it's been an amazing journey. I've been many different countries around the world, etc. And now, as you mentioned, just squarely landed on launching this platform. I felt it was the right time for it. I feel there's a niche specifically for what we're going to do, which I know we'll talk about. And it's been very exciting. So, yep, that's a little bit about me and my story.
So, okay, so building and launching a software platform like this, I know a lot of people are curious. I mean, what does it take to build a platform like this? I mean, that's, there's nothing off the shelf, there's no cookie cutter, WordPress template to start your own freelancing marketplace.
Yeah.
What were some of the challenges you ran into?
Well, I mean, it came a lot from experience. I
Mhm.
mean, I was running, for other people, for businesses and et cetera, multi-billion dollar platforms.
Sure.
And, once you get the, to put it, in such a way, once you get the hang of it, once you see what it takes to actually build a platform and manage a platform, to roadmap it, to understand feature development and all these types of things, and you do it for so many years, well, then it doesn't seem so difficult anymore. This is not something that, as you mentioned, you don't just do it in 30 days and launch. I've been contemplating this for at least the past 2 years, working on it, chipping away at it, and finally just kind of work with a number of smart people to get it ready to launch. And just so happens the pandemic came along, and it's certainly not been a good thing for a lot of people. It's caused a lot of tragedy and etc. But from a career, job, independent, people rethinking how they approach their work perspective, I think you mentioned it, it has really, I think, accelerated people reevaluating, do I just want to have one stream of income? How can I have more? Some people lost their jobs during this. And so it's causing everybody just to think about what they can do. And I think it's going to accelerate this whole wave of people jumping into freelancing as a way to create an alternate source of income.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. If you look at any of the stats and numbers, um, uh, the shift to the freelance, I mean, it's huge. I mean, they're predicting like by 2030, like 50% of everybody's freelancing.
That's right.
Uh,
That's right. I mean, what's shocking to a lot of people is that, in the US alone, last year, 2020, freelancing contributed $1.2 trillion
yeah,
to the economy. And, the amazing thing about it is a lot of it is still done offline.
mm,
A lot of it is still word of mouth. So, and there's a lot of people who, we were discussing earlier, who are just starting to get into it that really hadn't thought about it before. And they're realizing that, well, I can actually do something. I mean, a lot of people think it's really just for technology folks or graphic designers, or if I don't know how to, code, then I can't be a freelancer. But if you can check email and answer a phone,
yeah,
you can be a virtual assistant
yeah.
and you can make about $200 a week. And oh, by the way, you can have 10 clients. So as people are starting to realize things like that, to your point, I think it's just going to accelerate even faster.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Okay, so here's the question that I'm sure you've been asked before. So you just launched belance.com. Why? And like, what are you doing different? I mean, there's already freelance platforms out there, right? Like Odesk and Freelancer. And then there's a whole plethora of sort of niche ones that exist. What
Yep.
inspired you to launch another one?
Yeah, that's a great question. The biggest thing for me is, I have been working with, hiring freelancers for various projects, forever, but certainly over the past 5 to 7 years. And what I noticed is that it is becoming increasingly hit or miss.
Mhm.
You don't know, you hire someone, everybody's got 5-star reviews, and you don't get what you wanted. It almost feels like gambling sometimes when
Yeah. Yeah.
when you're bringing on somebody new. And for a lot of people who are just getting into it, either on the freelance side, but certainly on the company and business side that are hiring freelancers, it could be very intimidating going to these platforms with 5 million freelancers. It's almost
Yeah.
like walking through a big box retailer with 1,000 aisles and nobody to help you. So the way that I look at it is, you may have these super large platforms out there that are the McDonald's and Burger Kings of the world. I'm looking to be Chick-fil-A. And, you know, I don't know how popular Chick-fil-A is in Vancouver.
We don't have it.
But
So you're gonna have to explain
you
that
don't
one
have
to
it.
me.
So I'm going to explain it. Yeah. Yeah. So Chick-fil-A is, and this is the fact that you don't have it is proof to the story, is that Chick-fil-A is a chicken fast food restaurant. They sell chicken sandwiches and, you know, chicken nuggets and chicken strips. That's basically it. Maybe chicken salad. Um, and they launched, you know, who knows how long ago, but they place a very, very high emphasis on service, quality of service. They're very high touch. People are always smiling. They get your order right every time. You know, they get you in and out very quickly. And if you go to any Chick-fil-A here in the United States, you will see Burger King and McDonald's on the right and the left. They'll have the standard, you know, maybe 5 cars. Maybe you can drive right up if you get lucky. You go to Chick-fil-A, the line is literally wrapped around the building twice. And the strange thing about it is you still get your food faster. So, you know, what the thing that I thought was really missing from some of these, you know, kind of super large marketplaces is, you know, they've lost that touch.
Yeah.
And so what I feel like there is a niche for high touch, high service, very high quality. I actually talk to most of the freelancers that come on the platform. You know, and I don't want to have a gazillion people on there where it's just like a 1,000-hour big box retailer. A more of a boutique, you know, offering that people come in, they know they're going to get a quality freelancer. They know they're going to get the right service. It's going to be what they ordered. People are going to smile, and it's just a better experience. So, I mean, that to me is the major differentiator from some of these super large marketplaces that are out there today.
Yeah, look, I mean, I agree. You know, I use Odesk. I've used Freelancer, and you know, you put up a job post there, and you're inundated with crap, and you got to sift and sort through the crap, and figure out, you know, what's good and what's not, and that's tough. And you know, I've been doing it for a long time, so I'm pretty good at, you know, finding the diamonds in the rough. But the people that are just getting into it, especially the guys that come in and they're just looking purely for the best deal, you know, you know, that's a slippery slope, and it always ends poorly. So does that mean you're like, do you have a pre-screening kind of process before somebody can be a freelancer on your platform?
Yeah, well, you could register for free. I mean, we let people register as freelancers and post their services. But, you know, as I mentioned, I reach out and, you know, do some validation. You know, I pay very close attention to the client experiences. I talk to the customers. It's just, you know, the way that I look at it is the platform should be more of a partner to the business. It should be actually a partner platform. You're going to these platforms almost as an extension of your business. As you mentioned, sometimes you may hire a resource on a freelance kind of contract basis, and that relationship turns out into that person joining your company full time. Or you work with them so many times that there might as well, you know, be full time. They know all your systems and everything you're doing. So, I mean, it's just, you know, that to me is the relationship kind of model that we're creating. And, you know, so for the freelancers, yeah, we talk with them. We actually communicate with them. And, you know, the fact that they know that, it's amazing. You know, you can't, you know, you can't manage what you can't measure, so to speak. And the fact that they know that there's more of a direct relationship like that, it shifts the dynamic a bit, where you have less of the, you hire somebody, you're supposed to check with them in 7 days. 7 days passes, you check in with them, it's absolutely the wrong thing, or maybe they have nothing and you get a whole bunch of excuses and you've burned a week or whatever the case may be. The experiences based on this model have turned out to be much better.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So let's go down the rabbit hole of how people screw up hiring freelancers, because I see so many, you know, gigs and contracts end in scorched earth, and it could have been avoided in so many ways. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see people making when they're hiring freelancers?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you one, maybe two that jump out right away. The first one is people go for the cheapest price.
Oh God, yeah, yep.
And and I'm telling you, it is hard not to do it,
Mm-hmm.
because you want, let's say you want a website done, and you see, 10 jobs posted or gigs posted, and one of them's $200, one of them's $175, and one of them's, $160 or 99.
Mm-hmm.
And, for a lot of people who use freelancers, they're small businesses. They don't have a huge budget, and all the descriptions look exactly the same.
Yep.
So you're like, well, I can get the same thing for 99 bucks. And as you know, and you've experienced, it just doesn't work that way. For a lot of people, I would say use the same approach to freelancing that you would use in any other thing that you purchase. If you have to get your car fixed, and one mechanic's going to charge you, $500, one's going to charge you $300, and one's going to charge you $99, you're probably gonna question the one that's charging $99. So, and then when they screw up, you're probably not gonna be surprised. So, I think that's one of the main mistakes that people go through, is just defaulting to the cheapest option, and that will catch you almost every time. I mean, sometimes you'll get somebody that they're trying to discount their price to get jobs so they can get reviews. And on the freelance side, when you have these very large platforms with a gazillion freelancers, if you're just starting out, you kind of don't have too many options to try to separate yourself. And that's one of the things that people try to do. But it's just very difficult to distinguish between, this is a really good freelancer, they're just kind of trying to discount themselves to get going, versus this person is just not good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to spin my wheels. So I would say, if you go lower on price, you've got to spend a ton more time vetting the person that you're planning to hire. Don't rush into it. Certainly don't pay by the hour. And take your time in choosing somebody brand new.
Yeah. And, personally, when I go in, I typically just, the super cheap ones, I just delete them. I don't even look at them. And the reason why is whenever I've gone down that rabbit hole, as we all have, right? We've all done it. We've all had to learn. It always ends up being more expensive in the long run.
That's an excellent point, because you end up, either one of two things, or one of many things actually can happen. Either they can't actually deliver it for that price, and so you got to keep paying them to get it done, or you completely waste your time and they cannot deliver. So then you have to go purchase the one that was more expensive anyway. And not only have you lost your money, but you've lost time, which in a lot of cases is even more critical for somebody that is either trying to start a business or just trying to get something done. You miss your deadline.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And it's happens all the time. It's too easy to go down that rabbit hole. But for everybody listening, you can get great deals out there for sure, and great people, but the ones that are too good to be true are typically
too good to be true. That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. I'll throw one more out there before you go. I mean, another thing that I recommend people do is, in some platforms, when you are starting a new relationship, meaning it's freelancer you never worked with before, maybe it's a one-time project you're trying to do, and maybe it's something that you're going to need repeatedly, but you're just starting it. A lot of freelancers try to push you to pay by the hour. And if you're just starting with somebody, I would recommend highly against that. I would recommend either you pay by milestone, meaning you specify, I want to see this body of work by next week, and we will meet and review it. And at that time, I will release a portion of the job payment to you, or I'll just wait till you get done.
Yeah.
Because what a lot of people end up experiencing is the person, the freelancer, will say, check in with me in 2 weeks. And they'll be charging them by the hour the entire 2 weeks. They get to the end of the 2 weeks, either one, the freelancer has nothing to show, or it's completely inadequate, or it's completely wrong, but they've already billed you.
Sure.
So now you get to what you were saying is you end up having to pay more than the 99 bucks that it was advertised. You end up paying 300 bucks anyway, because you're constantly doing revisions and etc. So, those are the two biggest mistakes: is going the cheapest option. There's a million more that we can cover, but
Sure.
and then if you're just starting a relationship, I advise heavily against paying by the hour. Pay by the milestone, or pay when the job is done. And they will beg and plead with you to pay by the hour, but you got to hold your ground and say, look, the only way I'm going to do this, I've got a million other offers. The only way I'm going to do this is if I pay by the milestone or pay you when the job is done. That is non-negotiable. And you'd be surprised, they'll come around and say, okay, we'll do it by the milestone. But that just places some more control around the whole situation, and
Sure.
it protects the buyer much, much more.
Yeah. Yeah. And so let's talk about milestones then, because this is probably the other mistake I see people make. They say, I want this, tell me when it's done. How do you structure and set up milestones? Or what do you recommend?
Yeah, I recommend that. I highly recommend milestones for a number of reasons. I don't even, if I was to choose, first, second, third, first would be use milestones. Second would be pay when the job is done. And third would be pay by the hour. And you pay by the hour after you've already worked with the person a few times and they're good. And it kind of helps them out, especially if they're having to pay people also. So milestones requires a person who's hiring. You got to sit down and you got to think about the job that you're trying to get done. You need to think through how you actually see it coming together. It causes a person to be more realistic, because when you break out the actual work, let's say you want somebody to build an Excel workbook for you or something like that. By doing it in milestones, it forces you to think about progressively exactly how this thing will come together, which helps you to think about exactly what you need. Sometimes when you just post a job, you're very high level. You have in your mind how you think it should work, but that other person really may not have all those details.
Yeah.
And so, you're kind of putting them at a disadvantage in a way, because they're having to extrapolate or interpret some of the things, and they may interpret them incorrectly. So, by doing it with the milestones, it forces you to break out in logical chunks, which helps you to actually break out logical timing. But then also at that first milestone check-in, it allows you to see the capability of the actual freelancer, and it allows you to ensure that they're going in the right direction before they get too far. When you post a job and say, call me when it's done, I mean, you've experienced this, I've experienced this. You will go to that completion meeting and they'll be so excited too. And they'll be walking you through the finished product. And the further they're going, you're just thinking to yourself, this is getting worse and worse.
Yep.
This is the complete opposite of what I wanted. And now you've got to start all over again. And guess what you're going to do the second time? You're going to use milestones. So, I would say first thing, first method to use milestones, think logically. It helps protect you. It actually puts the freelancer in a better position to deliver what you want. And it's just an easier way to manage it.
Okay. So here's a question for you, because you've got a, technology background. You've hired developers and programmers. How do you, the average person who says, hey, I want to develop this feature or this application or this plugin for my website or for a product or something like that, but I don't know the language. I'm not the programmer. How do you hire a programmer, and how do you quickly determine if they have the skills to effectively deliver what it is you need?
Yeah, that is a great question. And I'll give you two answers. The first one is you wing it. And that's what a lot of people try to do. Because there are a lot of people, if I'm a truck driver or if I'm a restaurant owner and I've got a great idea for a problem that I know all restaurant owners or all truck drivers have, and I want to develop an app or something along those lines to address the problem, but I have no technical background whatsoever. I'm going to describe it to the best of my ability, and I'm going to post it on there, and I'm just going to wait for the responses to come in. And as you mentioned, you'll get a tidal wave of people telling you that they can do it.
Yeah.
Chances are, if you're lucky, maybe you'll get close, but chances are you just will not work. That won't work out well for you, and you'll waste a lot of money. And that gets into the thousands of dollars of wasting money.
Mhm.
That's the first way, is just wing it, go out there and try your best with the market. It's almost like going to Las Vegas. The second way that I would say is, one of the things that we've developed on freelancing.com is we have a concierge service, and it is specifically for, what you want, but you don't know all the gritty details. Like, you don't know all the questions to ask. We offer that service specifically for, that purpose. You tell us what you're trying to do. You give us what you want the end result to look like, and we will go find the right mix of freelancers and professionals that we know, that we've worked with before. And it ensures that, you're going to get what you pay for. And again, that's why it's all about service and making it easy. If you don't, use something like that, if whatever platform you're going to does not offer something like that, I would say at least find a friend, find someone that knows something about that particular thing, and let them help you. Don't do it on your own, because there's just too many details. There's too many things you're going to miss. And you will spend thousands of dollars that you don't have. And I've seen a lot of people kind of lose a year.
Yeah.
Because they saved up that money to do the thing. They spent it. They didn't get what they wanted. Now it's going to take them another year to save up the money to have another go at it. And who knows what happens a year from now. I mean, 1 year to the next, COVID happened. Just look how crazy things got in a very short period of time over the past 18 months. You just don't know what's going to happen. So I would say use a concierge service like we offer at freelancing.com. Find a friend, try to get somebody who can represent you or help you work out the details.
Yeah, that's good advice. All right. So next question. And this is something I've had lots of people ask me. It's something I've faced. You go out to the platforms, whether it's a Freelancing or an Odesk or whatever, and you have individual contractors, but then you also have agencies and teams applying. Any preference? Is there any, hey, this is better for this, or,
Not really. I would say the larger jobs, I actually tend to lean towards agency.
Yeah.
They have more than one person there. And then also, if you're looking for, if it's a larger job and this is going to be more of an ongoing thing, when you have an independent, like single source of failure, one person that is working on something for you, and it's something that's critical to your business or critical to your project, and it's an ongoing thing that you're going to need, them to maybe make tweaks on, and etc. If you've only got one person, let's say they get a job, or let's say they move to a different city, or they decide to stop freelancing, or they just go offline for a bit and they go on vacation. I mean, you're at a significant disadvantage. And, in all honesty, right now, a lot of people are hiring freelancers internationally. So it's different if it's a local person and you can actually go meet them. And if they go on vacation, you guys just meet at, the coffee shop when they get back. But if it's someone international that you really have no other way to get in touch with them besides either the platform or just, email, they can just go off grid and you're stuck. So I would say for the larger kind of ongoing things, especially if you're getting started out, I typically lean towards agency. If it's something that you're familiar with and you kind of understand, even if this person flames out, I can get somebody else and pick it up. Agencies may charge more sometimes. It's dependent. Sometimes they're actually cheaper because they have more people. So, there are some things that you can use an individual for, because maybe you want to develop that relationship. Maybe you'll even hire them at some point in time in the future to be more of a full-time person. It really just depends on kind of what the job is, like a virtual assistant. might be somebody you would use as an individual, because maybe you will actually hire them at some point, and you want that one-to-one relationship versus going through a manager at the agency that's dealing with the actual people doing the work. So it depends on the type of job. More complex, I would say agency. Less complex, more ongoing, probably good to go individual, because you can develop and control that relationship. Even you can take the relationship offline at a certain point.
Yeah.
And just work with them directly.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So last kind of rabbit hole to go down is, and you mentioned this, a lot of the people you're going to be working with could be international, right? You know, I think a lot of people who first get into it, you know, they go online and they post a job and they have people from all over the world. And that's new, you know, for a lot of people to be dealing international. What's your take? Do you have any preferences of countries for certain skills? Do you prefer to keep it domestic, or do you prefer to keep, you know, like, what do you look for?
I mean, you know, for me, you know, like you said, in yourself, once you've been doing it a while, the international thing really doesn't startle you as much. In a lot of the companies where, you know, I've had very large organizations under my purview, all of those are international. I mean, you got people literally everywhere. So you know, I've become very much accustomed to it. If, you know, the biggest, I would say, decision point, it depends on the job and the type of work. If you want to be able to meet the person and talk face to face, let's say, you know, there's some design work and you have some mock-ups and you want to really be able to, you know, have eye contact and jump on a whiteboard and talk them through it. I would say go domestic. I mean, go domestic, even go local in your city if you can. You'd be surprised how many skilled freelancers are right next door. I mean, in your city, and they're willing to meet. But other than that, I would suggest that everybody understand and get used to the way of the world today. You know, it's an international landscape that we live in now. And you can get a ton of benefit by working internationally, because you can get better prices. I mean, and it doesn't mean it's worse. I mean, it just means that their, you know, economic scale is slightly different, which allows them to charge a little bit less. And it's worldwide. I mean, this is the world that we live in now, and it's one of the advantages, you know, of the internet and these platforms, is that you are not limited to your local market. You can go broader and get a much wider lens. So I would look at it as a good thing. And, you know, but for people who may be overwhelmed by it, just understand that's the way the game works now. And, you know, talk to them like you would talk to anyone else, vet them like you would vet anybody else, and you should be okay.
Yeah. And so when you're hiring freelancers, you know, what level of interview do you do with them? Do you just do it via chat, via email? Do you ever say, hey, let's jump on Zoom, I want to actually chat with you? You know,
I do. I do. If it's something really quick, you know, if, let's say, a lot of people hire for data entry. And, you know, again, this goes back to a lot of people say, well, I can't be a freelancer because I don't have any specific skills. If you know how to use Excel, I mean, heck, you can go on YouTube and just learn how to use Excel.
Yeah, totally.
There's so many people that want somebody just to do data entry, or to copy the data from this to that, or all these websites, get their contact information and put it in a Excel spreadsheet format. And that's $400, $200 that somebody can earn that, you know, and they just start doing that as a side hustle, so to speak. But, you know, for quick things like that, I would say the meeting time is probably less. Yeah. Because those are very straightforward. If it starts to get into, I need design work, I need some type of development, you know, I will meet on Zoom. I will, you know, it takes longer. I will vet them more. You know, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised that how many times you'll read their job description and all their experience, and then you meet them and you just try to get them to reverb some of that back to you one-to-one. It's almost like a job interview, and they struggle with it. And that's a good way of letting you know they probably copy and pasted
Yes.
that that experience. They really don't have it, and they're trying to use you to try to get some experience.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people who do that. So, for the more complicated work, I do interview and talk and meet them, just like you would for a job interview. I mean, you wouldn't just hire somebody off the street and you didn't interview them, and you want them to actually do something important for you.
Yeah. And I think that's a real important point for everybody that's listening, because it's a big mistake I see is people, you're right, for the short stuff, data entry, basic stuff. Yeah, you can do that online, but to actually hire people that are going to work on big projects and such, treat them like you're hiring an employee.
That's right. Take the time.
Yeah.
You will be glad you did.
Yeah.
You'll be glad you did, and you'll save a lot of time, and you'll save a lot of money, and you'll save yourself a lot of frustration.
Totally. And do a little research on people as well. Like, I mean, I've taken, writers that have applied for stuff and run it through, Copyscape and stuff like that, and found, oh, they didn't write this. This is plagiarized, right?
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Or you'll get a lot of people who, and I'm using websites as an example. It's one of the most common things people do. You'll go and look at somebody's profile, and they'll say, I developed all these websites.
Mm-hmm.
And you go out and actually look at the website, they don't exist. Or, you see 5 other people with those same websites that they say they developed. So, do a little background work, do a little research. Like you said, treat them just like you're hiring somebody, interview them, ask them questions. If you don't know how to do an interview, go to Google and say, give me, search for interview questions that are good to ask for developers, interview questions for graphic designers, interview questions, and you'll get some pretty good stuff that will at least allow you to smoke some, I would say disingenuous people out of your pool of candidates.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, it's funny you brought that up about the websites. I had a guy apply once, and on his resume was one of my websites. And I'm like, dude, you didn't build that. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
He probably disconnected right after.
Oh, yeah. That party was over.
The party was over real quick. Updated the profile immediately,
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And that is, back to your earliest question about, what's different about Freelancing. I realized very quickly, these platforms have 1 million freelancers on them.
Mm-hmm.
It is almost impossible to manage quality at that scale.
Yeah.
And you will have a lot of people that do that. And they just, if you get, let's say that person that you just mentioned, they get you to pay them by the hour, and they get to start the job. They will get at least $50 from you before you realize they have no idea what they're doing.
Yep.
If you didn't do that additional research. So somebody can do that, almost for a living in a different part of the world and live pretty good. So, take the time, do your vetting. It's one of the things that we prevent at freelancing.com by being so active and discussing and meeting. Look, once I meet with a freelancer and they say they do graphic design and I'm talking with them, I can tell pretty quickly if they know what they're talking about or not. And it's like, yeah, this isn't going to work. This is not the platform for you. I'm sorry. Best of luck and goodbye. So, we do that because we don't want a gazillion freelancers on the platform. At a certain point, we'll probably stop accepting freelancers once it gets, impossible to manage. But that's all about so that we can control quality. Mm-hmm. And I feel like right now that is a huge differentiator, or can be a huge differentiator in the marketplace.
It's funny. I look at, Odesk in particular. I feel like, they grew too fast, and now they're the cat's out of the bag, and now they're trying to fix all these problems by limiting freelancers, putting all these things into place, giving you some more personal service, right? But it just doesn't feel personal. You can tell it's still all just...
Yeah, you're kind of talking to a chat bot, or it's like you're trying to call the power company or something.
Trying to your cell phone company or something like that. It's just horrible.
Right? Your call is very important to us. That's once you hear that when you call somebody, then you're in for not a good experience.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much for taking part today. But before we wrap up, where can people find out more about you? I think we've said it 100 times, but say it again. What's the URL?
Yeah, the URL is belancing.com. My personal website is rasool.me. So, and that has more personal stuff if I'm speaking somewhere, or, just my personal rummages through different topics and etc. But between belancing.com, rasool.me, you should be able to find me. I do respond to everything, so you can reach out to me directly, and I'd be happy to talk with you.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your freelancing wisdom.
Excellent. Thank you, Derek, for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right, folks. And now it's your turn. If you want to actually make something of what you heard today, you've got to apply that a final essential ingredient, and that is action. So there was a lot of just absolutely killer tips here today on how to hire freelancers properly. So if you've tried it before and haven't had success, go back to the drawing board. Go check out Belance. Apply some of the strategies that we talked about here today, and it's going to make that journey so much more successful for you. And as always, if you like what you heard here today, please leave me a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcast. This is your host, Derek Gale, signing off.
Thanks for listening to another info-packed episode of the Project Ignite podcast with Derek Gale.
Any links mentioned, along with an entire transcript of this episode, can be found at projectignite.com/podcast.
And to make sure you never miss another episode, go to iTunes or SoundCloud now and subscribe.